Today on the John Ankerberg Show, modern science discovers the universe had a beginning. What are the implications of this discovery? Do the words, "In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth," accurately describe what science has discovered? Astronomer George Smoot at the University of California, Berkeley declared, "What we have found is evidence for the birth of the universe." He added, "It's like looking at God." Arno Penzias shared the Nobel Prize in Physics for the discovery of cosmic background radiation. He said, "Astronomy leads us to a unique event, a universe which was created out of nothing, one with the very delicate balance needed to provide exactly the conditions required to permit life, and one which has an underlying, one might say, supernatural plan." Astronomer George Greenstein, in his book The Symbiotic Universe, asks, "Is it possible that suddenly, without intending to, we have stumbled upon scientific proof of the existence of a supreme being?" And Stephen Hawking has conceded, "It would be very difficult to explain why the universe should have begun in just this way, except as the act of a God who intended to create beings like us." My guest today is astronomer Dr. Hugh Ross, who received his PhD in astronomy from the University of Toronto and did postdoctoral research at Caltech on quasars. He is the author of many books, including his latest, Navigating Genesis. We invite you to join us. Welcome to our program. We've got a great one for you today. We've got astronomer Dr. Hugh Ross, who's going to be talking about the scientific evidence in relationship to the Bible, which is always fascinating to people. We're going to show you some clips that are absolutely beautiful, that illustrate what science is showing us today. And Hugh, I want to set the basis biblically, that God gave Genesis chapter 1 for a variety of reasons. It's becoming more and more astonishing to me. The older I get, the more I see what God has packed into this. Give us the brief outline of some of the things as you, as an astronomer, have been astonished to find in that Genesis chapter 1.
Well, and I'm impressed, of course, by the opening passage. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, which tells us that all matter, energy, space, and time had a start with a causal agent beyond space and time that creates everything. So right away, you're confronted with God, the creator of the entire universe. And then the point of view shifts to the surface of the earth. The Spirit of God is hovering over the surface of the waters and tells us water covered the whole surface of the earth, and it's dark on the surface of the waters. And today we astronomers recognize that indeed is the primordial state of planet Earth, where you have a universal ocean and you've got a very thick, opaque cloud layer that keeps the light of the sun, moon, and stars out.
And about back to 1920, 30, 40, right in that area, you as astronomers didn't believe point 1 or 2.
We didn't. I mean, the predominant view in the 19th century was that the universe was eternal, without a beginning, and it didn't change over that time. Today we know it has a specific beginning. We're talking a beginning only billions of years ago, not quadrillions like people once thought, and therefore there is no possibility for a Darwinian explanation to life's history. And that's the theme you see in the 6 days. Yes, things are changing from day 1 up through day 6, but God is the one that's engineering those changes. He sets up the natural processes, but he's also supernaturally intervening to make the different kinds of life in preparation for human beings.
And the grammar is important in verse 1, verse 2, and going into the days of creation. You have this word bara, God created, okay? And it's only used 3 times in chapter 1. Why does God use a different verb when he's talking about the other stuff in creation?
Well, the word bara, translated create, is when God is bringing something into existence brand new that never existed before. And the first time you see it is for God creating all of physical reality, the universe. That's the physical creation. On creation day 5, he talks about introducing a brand new kind of life that's not purely physical, but physical and soulish, a reference to the higher animals. Then on day 6, it talks about the one and only species that is body, soul, and spirit. And the point is, these higher animals are endowed by God with a capacity to relate to a higher species, namely us, but we're endowed with a capacity to relate to a higher being, namely God himself.
All right. When we get to the sun, moon, and stars in the 4th day, God does not use bara. Why?
Well, because the physical material existed previously. I mean, the stars, for example, are made up out of gaseous elements. That's not new, that's always been around. What God has done is that he has shaped and organized them to make stars like our star, the sun, and likewise with the planets. So there it uses words like a saw to make, or to form, or to fashion, taking previously existing material, but supernaturally fashioning it to make the outcome that he desires.
Yeah, and in terms of the order, the chronology, sun, moon, and stars were actually in existence way back in the beginning when God created the heavens and the earth. Now, there's other stars that are developing, but the fact is when we start the creation days, the sun is already in place.
The sun's in place, the planets are in place. What is new is that light from the sun is now able to come through the atmosphere. So creation day 1, God transforms our atmosphere from opaque, where light can't come through, to where it's translucent. And this is made specifically clear in Job 38, where in the context of day 1, it says that God had wrapped the seas with clouds that kept the seas dark. So there in Job 38, it's explicit as to why it's dark on the surface of the waters.
And the Hebrew grammar in verse 1, verse 2 going into the days, tells you that you have the heavens and the earth already in place before you go down and you start looking at earth.
Yeah, the way the verbs are organized is such as telling us the universe is created by God first. After that, he forms the earth, and after that, light appears on the surface of the waters. So you already got a chronology taking place from Genesis 1:1 before you get to the 6 days.
All right, now, in terms of the stuff that God is doing, science is telling us a lot about that, and we're going to show that they actually agree as we go along here. But I want to show how God is fine-tuning our planet right here. And this first clip that I want to show from your beautiful documentary movie, Journey Toward Creation, which we're making available, has to do with the rotation rate of the Earth. I got a few questions for you after the clip, but folks, watch this. What has God designed?
Besides the moon and an occasional asteroid, Earth's nearest neighbors are the planets Mercury and Venus on the inside, between the sun and the Earth, and Mars on the outside. Our closest neighbor, Venus, like Mercury, is so close to the sun that the sun's gravity has worked like a set of brakes on its rotation period. Venus takes 244 Earth days to spin around just once. Our planet rotates about 4 times more slowly today than when life first appeared. Scientists have determined that a more radical change in Earth's rotation rate would have been catastrophic for life. Mercury, like the moon, has only a slight atmosphere. Therefore, since virtually no erosion has occurred, Mercury's oldest geologic features remain, the scars of ancient impacts by asteroids and comets. Mercury's meteor-scarred landscape documents for us the early history of the inner planets, a time of intense asteroidal and cometary bombardment. This heavy assault not only took place on Mercury, but also on Venus, Mars, and the Moon. Likewise, the primordial Earth was not spared from this intense bombardment, even more so because of Earth's greater mass. This heavy bombardment resulted in searingly hot conditions. hot enough to vaporize the Earth's oceans and melt the Earth's crust. Obviously, no possibility for life existed at that time. For decades, scientists theorized that life on Earth arose from a vast collection of non-living molecules called the prebiotic soup, a process that required billions of years. But now research has shown that life arose quickly, in less than a few million years after the late heavy bombardment. In addition, there is no evidence for a prebiotic soup. If there was a prebiotic soup, we would expect to find the remains of it in ancient carbonaceous material, such as kerogen and graphite. As it turns out, all carbonaceous material on and in the Earth comes from postbiotic material, the decay of established life.
Hugh, two things stood out to me in this fantastic clip, and that is, one is if the Earth's rotation was different, we'd have a catastrophe. And number two is there's no primordial soup. All through high school, all through grammar school, I was taught as a kid there's a primordial soup and life arose through evolutionary means. And here you're coming out with a blank statement that astronomers say there's no evidence of it. Talk about both of those points, Earth's rotation and this primordial soup not being there.
Well, I mentioned in the clip that the Earth was rotating much more rapidly in the past. So it's not catastrophic for bacteria, but it'd be catastrophic for us. Because if it's rotating as fast as it did a few billion years ago, that means we have very laminar storms, which means humans would be limited to just one locale on planet Earth. We wouldn't be able to have civilization globally. There'd be much more intense storm features than what we're experiencing right now. And if you had a slower rotation rate, that means it'd be much hotter in the daytime than it is now and much colder at night. The other thing we notice is we have just the right tilt of the rotation axis, 23.5 degrees. That's ideal for keeping advanced life over the whole of the globe. And God wanted us to have global civilization. And it's thanks to our moon that we have that stable rotation axis tilt. The other planets do this. Our planet stays rock steady at the ideal tilt angle.
Second point is that you said that there's no prebiotic soup. And so therefore, why aren't the textbooks changed? Because that takes away life arising from evolutionary means.
Well, this is a relatively recent discovery that Earth never had a primordial soup. And as I mentioned in the clip, one reason we know that is because of the isotope signatures. Our bodies have more carbon-12 relative to carbon-13, and there are other elements where we have discordant. And what we notice is we never see the evidence for the non-organic building blocks for life. And we also know why. If there were oxygen in the early Earth's environment, that would prevent any prebiotic chemistry. But if there is no oxygen in the Earth's environment, there will be no ozone and nothing to stop ultraviolet radiation coming in from the sun. Ultraviolet radiation would be just as catastrophic to prebiotic chemistry. So by two independent means, we know Earth never had a primordial soup. And if the origin of life happened without a soup and without any significant time, that means there's no naturalistic explanation possible for the origin of life. It must be a supernatural event.
So God created man, but the scientists that don't want to accept that have to look for another place for life to come from. So they've actually started to look to the heavens, to other planets. And that's why we see it so much in the news. Isn't that correct?
That's right. If you don't believe in God and you can't make it work without God on the Earth, then they're going to say it must have happened somewhere else in outer space and got transported to the Earth.
All right, we've got a clip that's going to talk about this. I want you to watch.
Given so little time and the absence of a prebiotic soup, some scientists now look to the heavens for answers to the origin of life problem. They look up, not for a supernatural cause, but to search for other sources, which could have deposited the seeds of life on the early Earth. Could life have arisen on one of our planetary neighbors and then have been transported to Earth? Many scientists are now looking to other planets to find support for this idea. But even if we were to find life on a nearby planet, where did that life come from? How can we be sure of any life we find on a nearby planet is not really a cross-contamination from the abundance of life on Earth? The Earth is brimming over with life. It's only a matter of time before we find the remains of these Earth organisms on Mars. And many scientists will claim this is undeniable proof that life arose by natural processes there. But a simple test exists which would prove these organisms came from Earth. All DNA has a consistent complex signature or order to its structure. This signature is passed down from each living organism before it. If the DNA signatures found in the remains of life on Mars match that of the DNA found in life forms on Earth, then the only logical conclusion is that the stuff on Mars must have somehow come from Earth. Just as asteroids and comets colliding with Mars can send Martian rocks to Earth, so too collision events on Earth send Earth rocks to Mars and the rest of the solar system. While Mars is the best candidate beyond Earth for finding the remains of Earth life, it offers a far from hospitable environment. Mars is so dry, its atmosphere so thin, and its gravity so weak that a drop of water evaporates in less than 1 second on the Martian surface. Radiation, violent storms, instabilities of axis and orbit, and freezing temperatures lower than the Antarctic winter mean life cannot survive there, at least not for long. Billions of years ago, Mars had a warmer and wetter climate, which led scientists to speculate it could have spawned life. However, the chemical environment of early Mars was even harsher than Earth's, making a naturalistic scenario for the origin of life impossible.
Now, Hugh, in this clip, it brings up an interesting point. Every time I look at the news, it seems like I'm finding scientists that are saying, I think we found some water on Mars, or I think we found some water on this planet or this planet, or there's so many planets in the universe that possibly might have water. The idea is if we find water, somehow you'll have life, and life has gotten from there to planet Earth. But you're saying not only are they having a slim time sometimes finding water, although water is a very plentiful ingredient in the universe, but you need more than water to get life.
You do. Water is crucial for life, but it's not the only thing you need for life. And I agree with NASA. We're probably going to find about 10 billion planets in our galaxy that have the possibility of liquid water. But that's one of over 800 features that must be in place for life to be possible on a planet. And actually, we are now finding planets that we know have liquid water on it, but they have far too much liquid water. Water, as you mentioned, is a very abundant molecule in the universe, and these Earth-like planets that we're discovering have anywhere from 500 to 1,000 times as much water as the Earth, which means that you're never going to get continents. It's going to be a permanent water world with no possibility for advanced life.
Science is showing us that God has designed and fine-tuned this universe and our Earth and our galaxy in a fantastic way. Next week we're going to talk about the sun, moon, and stars, what God has done in these entities. But let's go to the bottom line. We've shown them enough characteristics that they ought to get the idea that scientists are saying, wow, something's happening here. Something is mixing with the numbers here. Everything's coming out for design, which would talk about a designer, which would talk about a creator here. And I want to play a clip from your movie that talks about some of the scientists the conclusions they're coming to. Some of these guys are still atheists, but they're making these statements about God. And then I want you to comment. Watch this.
So what are we to make of all the observations that the entire universe appears to have been meticulously designed for humans? You could just say, what a coincidence, or it's just chance. But most astronomers don't seem to find those answers very satisfying. The fingerprints of intentionality and purpose are unmistakable. And here we confront the cause of the universe, what some astrophysicists call the entity. Listen to what a few prominent scientists have said about the origin of the universe. Physicist Paul Davies has moved from promoting atheism to conceding that the laws of physics seem themselves to be the product of exceedingly ingenious design. He further testifies, "There is for me powerful evidence that there is something going on behind it all. It seems as though somebody has fine-tuned nature's numbers to make the universe. The impression of design is overwhelming." And then there are the words of Arnold Penzias, who shared the Nobel Prize in Physics for the discovery of the cosmic background radiation. Astronomy leads us to a unique event, a universe which was created out of nothing, one with a very delicate balance needed to provide exactly the conditions required to permit life, and one which has an underlying, one might say, supernatural plan. Finally, as Stephen Hawking concedes, it would be very difficult to explain why the universe should have begun in just this way, except as the act of a God who intended to create beings like us. The entity that brought the universe into existence must be the master of all space, time, matter, and energy. This entity must be powerful enough to create space-time dimensions at will, and to exquisitely fine-tune an untold number of cosmic characteristics. More than 200 have been uncovered so far. The probability of all these known parameters randomly coming together would be 1 chance in 10 to the 215th power. A probability so incredibly tiny that statistically speaking, it's impossible. And this probability is becoming even more remote with every new scientific discovery. Such a high degree of design demonstrates that this entity must be a personal being with an amazing creativity, wisdom, power, care, and love to a degree far beyond human capabilities. He has fine-tuned the Milky Way galaxy, the solar system, and planet Earth so its spiritual life can be fused with physical life in this one small place for one brief span on our timeline.
Hugh, when the movie was made, we were up to 200 fine-tuning characteristics of the universe. You're up to 850 now. And if that was persuading the scientists at that time, which was just a few years ago, what should 850 do to them? What does it point toward in terms of belief in God?
Well, the evidence actually gets 1,000,000 times stronger every month with advancing astronomical research, which means we can say to the skeptic, if you're not convinced today, wait a month. If the evidence becomes that dramatically stronger, then you need to seriously consider the truth claims of Jesus Christ on your life.
And folks, through this series, that's what we're trying to do, is we're trying to show you that the Bible and what it says is true, and it's the only holy book in the world that gives this kind of information. Next week, we're going to continue. We're going to look at the sun, moon, and stars, and the information that we're going to give to you is so amazing, you just got to watch it. So I hope that you'll join us then.
Stay tuned for scenes from next week's program. If you would like to have all of the information in our series, Science Discovers the Universe Had a Beginning. It is available on DVD for a gift of $49. What scientific evidence has led astronomers to conclude the universe had a beginning, just as the Bible says? What evidence shows God meticulously created and designed the universe so human life can safely live on Earth? And how has God positioned Jupiter, Saturn, and Neptune to protect the Earth? How did God exquisitely design the sun, the moon, and the stars for man's benefit? All 4 important television programs in this series are available on DVD for a gift of $49. We are also making available a second series entitled Step by Step Through Creation, in which Dr. Hugh Ross and I will take you verse by verse through Genesis 1 and 2 and show you how the biblical account of creation can be reconciled with scientific evidence today. The 4 programs in Step by Step Through Creation are available on DVD for a gift of $49. Third, we have written 2 new study guides with extensive notes that parallel our 2 television series. Each study guide contains 4 sessions for your personal study or Bible study group and is available for a gift of $8 each, or for 5 or more copies for $5 each. And fourth, we are making available the 70-minute documentary movie Journey Toward Creation, which will transport you by state-of-the-art computer animation out into space and back in time, past stars, galaxies, and quasars, all the way back to the moment the universe came into existence, and show you how God meticulously created and designed the universe. This updated second edition movie is available on DVD for $30. And finally, if you wish to order all 5 of these items together, that is, both television series, plus the 2 study guides, plus the documentary movie Journey Toward Creation, they are available together in a special package for only $120. And to order now, you may call us at 1-800-805-3030. That's 1-800-805-3030. You may also call that same number on any workday, or you may order these programs now at our website at jashow.org. Next week on the John Ankerberg Show.
Without the gravity of the sun, you wouldn't have a stable solar system. Life would not be possible on planet Earth. Without the moon, you're not going to have this exquisitely fine-tuned water cycle.
And to learn how to start a relationship with Jesus Christ, go to our website at jashow.org and click on Pray to accept Jesus Christ as your Savior.